hope you guys are having a great day. It's about to get even better. We are celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month today. How are we celebrating? We are celebrating with the first feminist who was Mexican during the mid-17th century, and her name is Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. That's her famous name. Before we even look at this whole worksheet, we are going to go into this quote on the left, or excuse me, on the right. It says, "I don't study to know more, but to ignore less." Before learning about anything else about her, this kind of shows me a little tidbit that she seems to be an intellectual, more so in academics, but also in personal affairs as well. And if you want to know this in 2 languages, I included it on the worksheet. Yo no estudio para saber más, sino para ignorar menos. By the end of this lesson, we are going to be talented historians. We are going to know who Sor Juana was, why she is important, and we're going to do some writing and drawing activities along the way to help us get this knowledge really in. So let's just focus up, deep breathe, and exhale. All right, let's get started. We are going to be watching a video this class to learn about her. Throughout the video, we're going to stop. We're going to look at this worksheet on the left. This is not a quiz. This is for your notes. The second activity we are doing is going to be collected at the end of class, though. This is to help you get ready to show your information in a great, coherent way for me to look at, to know that you've mastered this very interesting material. All right, let's get started.
Juana Ramirez de Azbaje sat before a panel of prestigious theologians, jurists, and mathematicians. The Viceroy of New Spain had invited them to test the young woman's knowledge by posing the most difficult questions they could muster. But Juana successfully answered every challenge, from complicated equations to philosophical queries. Observers would later liken the scene to a royal galleon fending off a few canoes. The woman who faced
So let's look at our first question here on the left. ¿Qué pensamos sobre esta mujer? What do we think about this woman? Let's pause, come back. So this, for me, is very interesting. She's clearly a very smart woman to answer all these questions correctly. More, even to add to that, she seems very brave. This was mid-17th century. This was not done. Women were silent in society, by force almost. This was the norm of the time. Women didn't have jobs, nothing like that. They were strictly housemakers. That was it. Just to know, this is all in English. You do not have to write this in Spanish. Okay, we are going to go on to the next question. Let's see what we can find out.
This interrogation was born in the mid-17th century. At that time, Mexico had been a Spanish colony for over a century, leading to a complex and stratified class system. Juana's maternal grandparents were born in Spain, making them members of Mexico's most esteemed class. But Juana was born out of wedlock, and her father, a Spanish military captain, left her mother, Doña Isabel, to raise Juana.
Just in case nobody knows ours, if there's some confusion, wedlock is when a child is born by parents that aren't married. That's really normal for us now. Back then, it was a big no-no because of religious influences at the time. Let's continue.
And her sisters alone. Fortunately, her grandfather's moderate means ensured the family a comfortable existence, and Doña Isabel set a strong example for her daughters, successfully managing one of her father's 2 estates, despite her illiteracy and the misogyny of the time. It was perhaps this precedent that inspired Juana's lifelong confidence. At age 3, she secretly followed her older sister to school.
Let's pause here on a really interesting point, and let's look at question 2. So, ¿cómo es su sociedad? What was her society like? ¿Es el clima política durante ese tiempo importante para entender Juana? Is the political climate during this time important in order to understand Juana? I think so. Let's pause. So welcome back. Let's go over our answers. Well, the society was patriarchal. Men called the shots. Women kind of had to go with whatever they said. They didn't have the power to really voice any other way. Also, they talked about misogyny. If women even did show something for themselves, men kind of critiqued it or they diminished its worth. So women really didn't have the same level of respect and they did not have the same opportunities as we're about to see. Is this important to understand Juana? Well, she's a child out of wedlock, strike one. She's a girl, strike two. And she seems kind of daring, strike three, and you're out. So I would say this is very important in order to understand Juana and her importance to what she becomes later on in life. Let's find out what she becomes.
When she later learned that higher education was open only to men, she begged her mother to let her attend in disguise. Her request denied, Juana found solace in her grandfather's private library.
Something important, she had her request denied not because her mom hates her, but because this was the societal norm at the time. Women did not go to school, and her mom was not going to get caught doing something so brave as to sneak into school to learn. Let's continue.
By early adolescence, she had mastered philosophical debate, Latin, and the Aztec language, Nahuatl. Juana's precocious intellect attracted attention from the royal court in Mexico City, and when she was 16, the viceroy and his wife took her in as their lady-in-waiting. Here, her plays and poems alternately dazzled and outraged the court. Her provocative poem, Foolish Men, infamously criticized sexist double standards, decrying how men corrupt women while blaming them for immorality.
We're going to pause, take a quick look at 3. How did she oppose the society? We've already seen several examples. Didn't want information dump on you guys. We're going to pause, write your ideas, and we'll come back. Welcome back. Hope you guys got some ideas down. I'm already seeing that she's very publicly opposed to this misogyny at the time, enough to write something titled Foolish Men. That's very brave. Let's see what happens following this.
Despite its controversy, her work still inspired adoration and numerous proposals. But Juana was more interested in knowledge than marriage. And in the patriarchal society of the time, there was only one place she could find it. The church, while still under the zealous influence of the Spanish Inquisition, would allow Juana to retain her independence and respectability while remaining unmarried. At age 20, she entered the Hieronymite convent of Santa Paula and took on her new name, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. For years, Sor Juana was considered a prized treasure of the church. She wrote dramas, comedies, and treatises on philosophy and mathematics.
Just want to pause there if you guys want to write down this sentence. Okay, let's continue.
In addition to religious music and poetry, she accrued a massive library and was visited by many prominent scholars. While serving as the convent's treasurer and archivist, she also protected the livelihoods of her niece and sisters from men who tried to exploit them. But her outspokenness ultimately brought her into conflict with her benefactors.
Ooh, let's pause there. A little interesting moment. Let's finish up with number 3. Let's pause. Welcome back. She opposed society in a lot of public ways. She wrote works, she made plays, she even made treatises on philosophy and math, all these great academic and social feats of the time by a woman, no less. A woman that knew multiple languages and could read. Women were not literate at the time. Honestly, some men weren't. It was not so common as it is today. As we're seeing, she kind of set the mode that women could do this. Other women had at the time, but Sor Juana had done it in such a famous and public way that it really kind of was the beginning. And this is how we, as we're seeing now, like we have a lot of norms. Sor Juana kind of set these in motion in the Americas. So let's continue. We're about to hear about the end of Sor Juana de la Cruz.
1690, a bishop published Sor Juana's private critique of a respected sermon. In the publication, he admonished Sor Juana to devote herself to prayer rather than debate. She replied that God would not have given women intellect if he did not want them to use it.
Feminist.
The exchange caught the attention of the conservative Archbishop of Mexico. Slowly, Sor Juana was stripped of her prestige, forced to sell her books and give up writing. Furious at this censorship, but unwilling to leave the church, she bitterly renewed her vows. In her last act of defiance, she signed them, I, the worst of all, in her own blood.
Wow.
Deprived of scholarship, Sor Juana threw herself into charity work, and in 1695 She died of an illness she contracted while nursing her sisters. Today, Sor Juana has been recognized as the first feminist in the Americas. She's the subject of countless documentaries, novels, and operas, and appears on Mexico's 200 peso banknote. In the words of Nobel laureate Octavio Paz, it is not enough to say that Sor Juana's work is a product of history. We must add that history is also a product of her work.
We're going to pause there. This is the end of the video. I'm going to let you guys look at this last question. ¿Qué piensas sobre el fin de Sor Juana? ¿Cuáles son tus comentarios sobre las acciones de Sor Juana? What do we think about the end of Sor Juana? And what are our comments? This is a comment section. There's no right or wrong answer. Let's pause and come back. Welcome back. Wow. What an interesting woman. She had feats towards feminism. And if we don't know the exact term of feminism, feminism is equality on all bases between men and women. She kind of set this mode going for women at the time. This was kind of an unquestioned thing. So we're going to look at some comments, get that geo going. Now we're going to take these notes. This is the part where I will be collecting this separate assignment. We're going to go to the second page. If you do want to look back at these notes, I've left some unknown words in case you want to look back and you're not sure of the words that are written here in Spanish. But let's talk about the activity. Direcciones. After watching the clip, what are some descriptions of Sor Juana that you saw? We're going to mark the boxes below, but be careful. You need to defend this answer later on the assignment that I am collecting. Let's pause, answer these questions, and come back. Welcome back. So, a lot of these could go both ways if you argued it correctly. I found her to have most of these traits, except she was not dishonest. She was definitely not quiet. She was very public and straight up with men. She was selfish. Was she selfish, or was she demanding what she rightfully deserved? That's kind of up to you. Was she bad-tempered, or was she just fed up? From these responses that you've done, we're going to go into the activity that I will be collecting. You will have to write 3 to 5 sentences in English. Has to be a mix of facts and opinions about Sor Juana that you have. You can look back at your notes if you would like. And to accompany these 3 to 5 sentences, you will draw a modern drawing of what you think Sor Juana would look like or say. I'm looking for anywhere between 3 to 10 little quotes. Doesn't have to be much. Or if you don't like this option, you could also make a graphic organizer. I'm just going to show you my options below. Here's my graphic organizer. Don't want to focus because there's some answers on there. And here's my drawing. Very simple, to the point. Good luck. I look forward to seeing your answers.